It is 3 hours until game night. Last week, the party chewed through your prepared content, and it's time to pivot and start a new chapter. The week really flew by. Maybe work was super busy. You had friends or family visiting, or a new TV show dropped. Maybe you're just really tired. You sit down in front of your computer or your DM binder, and no matter how hard you try to focus, no matter how much you tell yourself you need to get ready for the game tonight, you are stuck. You keep looking at your phone, hoping inspiration will strike somewhere, but you just sink deeper into paralysis. Now there's even less time left, and a sinking dread in your gut. So what do? The first and most obvious answer is go to the arcanelibrary.com and pick up an adventure to run, because they require zero prep. Everything's on the page. This is not a sponsored video. They're just that good. Let's say you've already run all of those, and you've already backed the Shadow Dark RPG Kickstarter, which is great because you only have a few days left to do that. Then what? This happens to me a lot. A huge part of ADHD and other comorbid neurodivergencies is your thoughts shouting to you, you must do this thing. Please, I'm begging you. I must prep the game, do the dishes, fold the laundry, finish the paper. And your neurochemistry says, no, that's not true. Let's just sit here and get progressively more and more panicked and helpless and afraid until a fight or flight response floods our brain with cortisol and kicks us into high gear at the very last possible second. I'm sure it happens to folks without ADHD too. The feeling of needing to create something for a deadline and having nothing at all to draw on for inspiration and energy is a very human experience. I don't think it happens to dogs. If there's a special trick for avoiding it, I have not found it yet. Burnout is a part of the cycle. So instead of feeling like a moral failure for not somehow preventing the deer in headlights creative freeze, let's look at what tools we can use to create something passable, maybe even good, under these circumstances. The first thing I do is grab a monster book or a campaign book or even another role-playing game, like Shadow Dark, and start flipping through the pages. We're just looking for a monster we like, and then we throw it at the party. Usually some name or art or description will push my last two brain cells together and make a spark. If I'm looking at a Dragonlance book and Lord Soth gives me a little surge of dopamine, I will ride that wave into game prep. When I think of Lord Soth, I really imagine cinematic moments somewhere between Darth Vader and Jason Voorhees. The sensation that this dangerous, somewhat unfeeling menace will track the party down no matter how far they run, and that confrontation is inevitable. This is not an excuse to throw a CR 19 creature at my level 5 party because I'm bored, but it can be used as a template to take an appropriately challenging but still dangerous creature like a Blackguard and say, okay, this is an imposing knight that will have some vulgar display of power to show off how challenging it is during the initial encounter, and then it will pursue the party. We'll also give him some weak skeletal soldiers to aid him in combat, and also serve as a precursor, a warning that he is almost upon the party in their flight. We, as the DM, know that this knight will not stop and cannot be stopped until it finds the party, so the tension of the game becomes, and we should be transparent about this, where will they choose to encounter him? We can create some places that are ideal and not so ideal for that to happen. Inside of a holy temple, where the knight would be at a huge disadvantage, taking ongoing damage or suffering some kind of penalty, would be the most favorable circumstance for the party, so we know that's the most difficult for them to reach. We'll make 2 more locations. A somewhat favorable place to stage the battle could be an abandoned farmhouse where the party can lie in wait and prepare Kevin McAllister style for the battle. The worst place for the battle to happen should probably be the first place they have an opportunity to choose, and for the sake of this improv, we'll just make it a bridge over a river during a flood, and there's lightning overhead, violent winds. I think battles on bridges are awesome. I don't really think I understand why. I just know that they tickle my brain in the good way. Probably has something to do with Gandalf. If the party faces him there, they'll have the most resources available, but they will have 0 time to prepare. Now, instead of having nothing, I have a small list of things to do. For each location, I can add a few spices to make them really cool and evocative. Our stone bridge over the raging river in the middle of a storm is already awesome. Any bridge in D&D is also begging to be collapsed, so if the players don't already have a way to do that, we could give them a wand of thunderclap or something and hint that the bridge is cracked and weathered. The farmhouse might have piles of rope, fishing nets, barrels of lantern oil, pits and trenches that could be trapped and covered, ways for the party to plan ahead for the confrontation. As for the temple, maybe there's a relic there, a sacred spear, arrow, or sword that could do some serious damage, or an ally that is bursting with holy power that could hold the creature at bay while they get some cheap shots in. Now we just need to make sure the party knows how big of a threat the Blackguard is, and that there is a temple some ways away that could grant them shelter and advantages. That's usually more than enough for the players to pick up and run with, and we've done about 5 minutes of work. We shouldn't have to spend too much time creating the connections we'd need between this new bad guy and the game world. Whatever monster you send after them, it can be a consequence for something that they've done, someone that they've wronged in the past, or an indicator of a new threat. In this case, our pseudo-Death Knight could have been contracted to go after them by someone who feels they've been slighted by the party, or someone who wants to eliminate the budding threat after their most recent adventure. Let's say you flip through all your game books and you feel nothing, or your eyes just aren't taking in the pages. That has happened to me before too. The next thing I do is take a look at where my interest wants to go instead. While I believe there's a limit to how much my hyperfixations and interests should inform the game over time for consistency's sake, we're definitely not going to hit that limit by occasionally mining those things for inspiration when we're feeling low. If I spent this whole week playing Breath of the Wild, then maybe this is the session where they happen upon an ancient, spidery automaton, and it wakes up angry. When it's defeated, they get some cool robot parts that they can use to make weapons, or armor, or replace that arm that the fighter lost a couple adventures ago. Maybe I've been binge reading the Cradle series by Will White in anticipation of the final entry, which I have. And this week the party is going to see 2 monks in a duel that is shattering the land around them. Both sides ask the party for aid against the other. We find out that they are shape-changed demons or dragons or something. They're more than they appear, and the stakes of this fight just got a lot higher. After the battle, they are owed a favor from the winner. What I'm getting at is, whatever it would be easier to do than prep the game, whatever you want to do instead, you can use that. If you're watching Gilmore Girls for the 10th time, run a Gilmore Girls session about the promising young wizard apprentice choosing a magic academy to attend, and her grandparents are pressuring her to go to the family magic academy where her grandfather went. But she also wants to honor her childhood dream of going to a different school that's just as prestigious but something of a rival. The whole town is way too invested because for some reason they've got nothing better to do, and now they want to contract the party to tip the scales. The party could be asked to humiliate a wizard alumni from one school or the other to make them look bad, or ambush a messenger bearing an acceptance letter. Unfortunately, sometimes even that doesn't work. Sometimes I'm not interested in anything at all. I'm just really tired. The common sense option here is to reschedule the game, but our brains aren't usually operating on common sense when this happens, and it's completely understandable to stand in stubborn defiance of calling the game night off. Usually when I'm in this state of burnout, I'm about one failure away from meltdown, so salvaging what I can is important. So my last resort is stupid simple. I will read a comic book or watch an episode of a TV show, usually one I've never ever seen before, and I'll adapt it as quickly and carelessly as I dare into a session outline. The trick here is to commit to the first show you start no matter what, or your game prep fatigue will turn into TV show or comic choice fatigue. And I really mean any TV show. Cheers. MASH, it doesn't matter. Dragon Ball Z, go for it. If it doesn't work out the way you wanted, it's just one session of many, and you've proven that you can spin up a session from absolutely nothing in an emergency. The last time I did this, the session did not go as planned, and the players probably don't remember my premise, or my NPCs, or my scene setting. What they do remember is what their characters chose to do, and the results of those choices. They remember the foes they defeated together. That so quickly overshadows everything else, and we cannot put that in prep. So, brimming with genius story ideas and multi-session arcs is not a prerequisite to getting the game ready. Not tonight. It's not a novel or a movie. Not every scene has to serve a purpose or advance the greater plot. What you do on your own before the game starts is less than 10% of what makes up the experience. And for people that use D&D as their sole creative outlet, that can be kind of a bummer or a hard to swallow pill. But you get to use that creativity at the table as well. For right now, just put down something, anything at all, and everything else will fall into place. Thank you to all of my Antediluvian Lurker and Dungeon Delver patrons: Adam M, IronTrash, Troy, Borkware, Courtney Monster, M, Mitch B, Paige the Enby Witch, Raspilicious, Sam, Shawn S, Shawn M. You're awesome. Thank you for watching.